Donald Trump is going to war with his own party, and it is threatening Mike Johnson's job. It is really hysterical to watch Trump spiral as Republicans across the country turn on him. Now, of course, the revolt that happened from Republicans in Congress tonight, stripping Donald Trump of one of the key powers he has abused throughout his presidency, is one of the bigger reasons for this crash out. But it's also governors across the country making Donald Trump furious. And that is where I want to start, because something that Wes Moore had to say just yesterday set off a chain of events that led to Donald Trump attacking a Republican governor this morning. It is the first attack on his party that we saw before we get into how he is now threatening Mike Johnson's job with an outrageous series of posts. But it starts with Wes Moore calling out Donald Trump because as he was planning to meet with all of the governors across the country, he decided he would kick out the only black one. And so Wes Moore called out Trump, and it led Trump to attack a Republican governor.
From your perspective, why are you being excluded from this dinner?
Well, I've long learned that I'm not trying to get inside over the president's psyche. It's not a good use of my time. It's not lost on me that I'm the only black governor in this country, and I find that to be particularly painful, considering the fact that the president is trying to exclude me from an organization that not only all my peers have asked me to help to lead, but then also a place where I know I belong in. And so I've long learned, and I've talked to the people and the children of my state, is that I'm never in a room because of someone's benevolence nor kindness.
The racism is just baked in and expected at this point from Donald Trump. But I have talked to Wes Moore a couple of times, some on camera, some off, as you've seen on the show. And he just doesn't really worry about Donald Trump that much. I think he has a pretty good idea of how to deal with him, that you don't cede any ground, that you don't praise him, that Donald Trump will ultimately always come crawling to you if you display strength. It's something that Mark Carney has been successful at, which is pretty funny considering what just happened with the tariffs that Donald Trump is levying on Canada tonight. But Donald Trump got called out for this for so many reasons and by so many people, including a Republican governor who Trump then went on to go and attack on Truth Social before he later today attacked Republicans in Congress and caused some serious problems for Mike Johnson. So Donald Trump, in a fit of rage, decided that he would call the governor of the great state of Oklahoma a rhino, in which, of course, he won all 77 counties 3 times, the only person to do so, saying that the governor incorrectly stated that his position on the very exclusive governor's annual dinner and meeting at the White House intends to limit invitations to the annual business meeting scheduled for February 20th to Republican governors only. That is false. The invitations were sent out to all governors other than 2 who I feel are not worthy of being there. I did not invite the governor of Colorado, and he also did not invite the governor of Maryland, who he said fraudulently stated that he received military medals, a lie, is doing a terrible job on rebuilding of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and has allowed Baltimore to continue to be a crime disaster. Trump went on to say that he invited slob Governor J.B. Pritzker and horrendous Governor Gavin Newsom. Trump continued his attack on this Republican governor, writing, when Kevin Stitt, the very mediocre at best rhino governor of Oklahoma, was losing his election to a Democrat, primarily because he is bad at his job, he called for my help. I endorsed him and he won. Sorry, my cherished Oklahoma, to have done that to you, President DJT. Okay, so yeah, he's really lost his mind. He's attacking a Republican governor for calling Trump out for not inviting a black governor to the White House, which I think is a fair criticism to make of the openly racist Donald Trump. But that's not the only loss that he has taken at the hands of Republicans, because Republicans in Congress just served him up an L that is really driving him crazy. 6 House Republicans defied Trump on key agenda item in Dem-pushed vote. The House of Representatives passed legislation Wednesday aimed at reversing Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada after several Republicans joined Democrats for a rare rebuke of the Republican commander-in-chief. Democrats successfully got a vote on a measure to reverse Trump's national emergency at the northern border, using a mechanism for forcing votes over the objections of House Majority Leadership called a privilege resolution. So Mike Johnson is a puppet of Donald Trump. Let's make that very clear. And when Mike Johnson fails, Donald Trump has failed because he has no political power over his party anymore. And so in response to that fact, he's decided to go to war with them. Donald Trump first wrote on Truth Social, Canada has quite frankly taken advantage of the United States on trade for many years. They are among the worst in the world to deal with, especially as it relates to quite frankly, our northern border. Tariffs make a win for us easy. Republicans must keep it that way. And when Republicans didn't keep it that way, Donald Trump wrote, any Republican, quite frankly, in the House or Senate that votes against tariffs will seriously suffer the consequences come election time, and that includes primaries. Seriously suffer the consequences come election time. Our trade deficit has been reduced by 78%. The Dow just hit 50K and the S&P 7,000. All numbers that were considered quite frankly impossible. In addition, tariffs have given us great national security because we were mere mention of the word as countries agreeing to our strongest wishes. Tariffs have given us economic and national security, and no Republican should be responsible for destroying this privilege. President DJT. So Donald Trump is announcing that Republicans who vote against him, and 6 did, mind you, will be facing consequences come election day. Now, for most of the Republicans, almost all who voted against Donald Trump's tariffs, primaries have already passed. There is no time for Donald Trump to throw a MAGA candidate in there to, try to replace Don Bacon, who's retiring. Kevin Kiley still running in his seat. There's no time for that. So when Donald Trump threatens these guys, he is threatening for Republicans not to vote against them, vote for them in the general election. Let's just run through some of the characters who voted against Trump. Ron Filipkowski of Midas Touch wrote, these are the 6 Republicans who just voted against Trump's Canada tariffs. Thomas Massey, Don Bacon, Brian Fitzpatrick, who's running for re-election, Jeff Hurd, who's running for re-election, Kevin Kiley, who's running for re-election, and Dan Newhouse, who is running for re-election. 2 Republicans Donald Trump does not care about. That's Thomas Massey, who has a primary opponent, and if he wins that primary, will keep his seat. Don Bacon is retiring, but the other 4 Republicans who could flip the House, Donald Trump is now threatening to cost them their seats and thus Mike Johnson his speakership. He is actively attacking Mike Johnson's ability to keep his job because he's mad over this tariff vote. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more Republicans hoping that there is another opportunity for them to vote against the tariffs so that they can go back to their constituents and say, hey, I wanted no part of this. I know this is raising your prices. I know this is a tremendous burden on American businesses. I didn't have anything to do with it. Please believe me. I wouldn't be surprised if more Republicans were trying to kind of get in line with that message. I'm surprised more didn't vote against the tariffs, but maybe it's because they're just so afraid of Donald Trump attacking them on Truth Social and threatening them. Let me remind you, in a general election, this is not about primaries anymore. Donald Trump's not, endorsing an opponent who would walk their way into an easy victory. All of these seats are going to be tough. So when Donald Trump says you should have some costly attack on you, you should lose something come election day, he is directly threatening Mike Johnson's majority. That is what's happening right now, directly, but also indirectly. Because if you are a Republican who worries about the political threat from Donald Trump, aside from the fact that Republicans also worry about their safety when Donald Trump posts about them directly, it's been well documented. You might say, yeesh, maybe I shouldn't vote against the tariffs. You're hurting your own voting record. You're making it more difficult for you to win your seat. This is just all bad for Mike Johnson. Donald Trump has created a real political problem for Mike Johnson by going to war with who? His Republican Party. Just let me tip my hat. Masterful work, sir. Just really great self-sabotage there. Just genius stuff happening on the Trump team. But this is what we see across the board with Donald Trump's agenda. It is fail after fail. It is loss after loss. That's just kind of where he stands. Rachel Maddow did a great job. If you need a little smile on your face, even more so than just watching Trump go to war with the GOP, take a look at some of his other recent L's.
Trump's bizarre weaponization guy at DOJ, Ed Martin, who calls himself Eagle Ed. Okay. He's the guy who's been in the lead on freeing all the January 6 prisoners and bringing these doomed, harebrained cases against people like Tish James and James Comey. Today, Ed Martin got stripped of his job titles and they moved his office out of Main Justice. You like your new broom closet, Eagle Ed? With that Texas special election this weekend, a place Trump won by 17 points, instead going to the Democrat by more than 14 points, a swing of over 30 points in the Democrats' direction in Texas, with Americans now telling pollsters by a 2-to-1 margin that Trump being back in office has made their life worse, not better. Trump has today told a right-wing podcaster, a guy he previously installed at the FBI for some reason, but who's now back to podcasting. Trump today told him that he wants Republicans to, quote, take over elections, meaning literally seizing the elections infrastructure all over the country. Okay. And his bizarro world seizure of ballots from Fulton County, Georgia, may be about to get nuked in court, as Fulton County today sued to stop him from doing anything with what they took. The Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office tonight is reportedly shedding another 8 federal prosecutors who are walking because they apparently cannot abide what the Trump administration is telling them to do in that city, with these bizarre and untenable attempts to investigate and prosecute the people Trump's agents killed there and their families, and protesters there, and journalists there. Georgia Fort, one of the Twin Cities journalists who they are trying to prosecute there, is going to join us here live tonight in just a moment. Tonight, the Trump administration has reportedly stood down the Alaska and North Carolina active duty troops they had previously told to prepare to deploy to Minnesota. Tonight, the New York Times reports that the Trump administration has even backed down on its demand to make Harvard University pay them millions of dollars. Just take a look around at where we are 1 year into this. Are they going to be able to build a huge, permanent archipelago of camps, of lawless prison camps? There's pushback everywhere, including in red states, red counties, and red cities, that says no. Are they going to be able to keep up their military-style invasion of U.S. cities? Minneapolis says no. And the whole country says no with them. Are they going to be able to arrest their way through their enemies and through the journalists they single out? No, they're not. They're going to try, but no, they're not. But it is the pushback against them right now that is going to prove all of that out. What we do right now determines the fate of this country.
It has been a string of failures for Donald Trump. That is what he is staring down as Republicans continue to turn on him. And we have to hammer home that point. And it is why you know what I'm about to plug. Shift Media, which you can subscribe to down below in the pinned comment or clicking right here, or by watching Jasmine Crockett humiliate Pam Bondi today. You definitely want to check out that video. Subscribing and supporting Shift is one of the best ways for us to build out progressive media. We need to shift our politics. And by doing so, we are going to shift our algorithms. We are going to shift our media. We're going to shift it all. So please do subscribe. One of the best ways to support us. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.